Okay, hi. My name is Matt Sullivan. I'm from the UK, and I've been on a retreat here in Casa de Campo with Don Gino Chaka-Runa. I've been here for about 7 or 8 days. Can't remember exactly how long, and it's been fantastic. So yeah, fire away with any questions that you've got.
So how is that you get to to this experience?
For me, I was brought up with Spiritualist Church, and I've always been very interested in spiritualism. And I was quite extensively read on the subject, and I wanted to expand my experience more into this sort of area. And I was looking for something of more of a direct experience in terms of a direct connection to source or direct connection to the divine. I didn't really know what was available to me, and I started reading up on a few different areas. A friend recommended ayahuasca to me, and I'd never heard of it. I'd never heard of any Amazonian plant medicine, to be honest. I'd heard of shamanism, but not in any real sense that made any deep impact on me. But as soon as I started researching on ayahuasca and started understanding some of the experiences that other people had had, it really started to ring a bell with me that it was obviously something that if I was courageous enough to go and do it, that it was probably something that I would enjoy a great deal. I was quite concerned about the risks. I'd read some safety implications that were problematic, to say the least. There had been a few people that had been reported to have died on ayahuasca, but the more I looked into that, it was actually just poor management of the resorts, and it was something that looked as if it was not as bad as it was made out to be. So I wanted to take the risk because for me, progressing on a spiritual path was as important as any career path or any life and family path that I'd had. So for me, I wanted to try it firsthand, and I booked a retreat with Gino in Holland, and I went there in December and did 3 days and three ayahuasca retreats, three ceremonies rather, in one retreat. And when I got there, I was very nervous, as everybody pretty much is before they've tried ayahuasca. And the first ceremony was, for me, was quite profound. So the first retreat was quite profound. Even my first experience, I was literally given my first out-of-body experience. I journeyed, I had lots and lots of visions, had lots of information, and literally this lasted for about 4 hours. I don't know whether it's appropriate to swear on this camera, but when I came down from that vision and back into basically the real world, my first expression was, holy fuck, what the fuck just happened? It really was life-changing. Just that first 4-hour ceremony was probably the single biggest experience of my entire life. And this was only in December. I'm 49 now, I'm 50 this year. And for me, as a 49-year-old man, I was rocked to my core. It changed so many fundamental aspects about myself. The following 2 ceremonies after that, the next one was a lot harder, but there's obviously the expression that we use in ayahuasca ceremonies is purging, and purging is basically vomiting, but the reality is it's in an ayahuasca scenario, it's not actually vomiting just for the sake of vomiting. It's actually getting rid of stuff that's inside you that you really don't need or no longer serves you. It sounds very strange to people when you actually explain that to them who haven't actually experienced ayahuasca. But once they have experienced it, purging becomes a generalized term in this whole movement for actually healing and getting rid of some of the stuff that really spiritually, physically, mentally, that are blockages in your life that you really don't need to move forward. So my second ceremony, I purged and came away from it actually even after having had a dark experience with a newfound appreciation of life and the ability to express gratitude and appreciation for so many different areas in my life, which, considering the night before, which was so fantastic and it was such a joyful experience and a journey, the second one being hard was actually a better experience for the result that I achieved out of it from that purging. And then the third experience that I had in Holland in December was again just as profound as the first one, and by the time the three ceremonies had finished and I went home, changed, and there was just there's no simple way of putting it. I was not the same person that had arrived in Holland, and obviously from that point onwards, my appreciation of the whole movement, my appreciation of what ayahuasca can actually do as a healing compound was was on another level. And from a ceremony point of view, I had no previous experience in terms of being able to compare Don Gino Chaka-Runa's ceremony style or expertise at shamanism or anything else. Basically, it was my first experience. So for me, really, even without the ability to compare it to anybody else, I was left with such an enormous amount of respect and admiration and appreciation for his work, because he guided us all through the whole process, was very caring, was very knowledgeable, was very warm and loving, to be honest. You know, ayahuasca, you know, when the ceremonies finish and the groups start to bond on the first and the second day, there's a lot of hugging and there's a lot of, sort of a very sort of new age feel to it, if you know what I mean, which isn't really me. I'm quite a down-to-earth, practical kind of guy, not so much the sort of tree-hugging, beardy-weirdy type, excuse the expression. But for me, you know, that all just made sense after the ayahuasca, and my ability to be able to express love and affection to other people, even those people or my family and my friends and everything else, was raised 100-fold.
And do you think that this experience, the ayahuasca, is for everybody?
No, I don't think it's for everybody at all. There are other things that you can do, Changa, San Pedro, and various other things which don't have such a huge personal impact. You know, Changa is smokable ayahuasca. That's a 15-minute journey. Again, you know, sort of taking you very much out of body, giving you a lot of visions and experiences, and also giving you a lot of lessons and information. But it doesn't require you to do a lot of work, whereas ayahuasca requires you to really go inside, and Mother Ayahuasca, which is basically the spirit that's associated to the plant. Again, quite a difficult concept for a lot of people to associate a spirit with a plant, but there is no question that entity exists, and that the whole process of the journeying and the visioning that you actually experience on ayahuasca is something that's coordinated by a far more sophisticated hand than anything that exists in the human realm. And
Can
yeah.
you tell me about the preparation, the diet?
Yeah, for sure. Well, one of the other things is that you're not supposed to have sex for like 2 weeks before you come. That's pretty difficult. Just because I have a very affectionate relationship with my fiancée. You obviously have to not have any salt, no sugar, particularly refined sugar. You need to cut down on meat. I was a very keen meat eater before I tried ayahuasca. I'm now vegetarian. Just didn't make sense to eat meat after having that experience and connecting, because the connection process that you actually experience on ayahuasca is not just with yourself and to do your own work. Everybody's left with a profound sense of connection to everybody else and everything else on this planet, certainly every living entity, whether it be plant or animal. And obviously, after having connected to them and felt as being one with the source and also with them, the idea of actually eating one of them really didn't make a lot of sense. So yeah, preparation was quite tough, really, because it requires you to move from a normal, traditional lifestyle. And I'm a restaurant owner, and I have various other businesses and stuff, and I travel a lot, and I eat well, and I used to drink well. I've also given up alcohol. I used to smoke marijuana. I've also given that up. So, you know, the effects are massive, but the preparation required you to drop all of those things beforehand, and then you come to an ayahuasca retreat, experience the profound nature of it, and thereafter it doesn't make any sense to go back to, you know, have your previous existence in terms of your previous food intake or drink intake or drug intake. And for me, the preparation was hard, but it was a good lead-in to the after effects of the actual experience. So yeah, the prep's hard whilst you're here. Obviously, you live on a diet that's, you know, pretty bland.
And after all this experience, because you told me that you made like 3 times in Holland,
Yeah.
but was not like a diet, all the diet.
It wasn't a dieta, as they call it, which is what we're on at the moment here in Peru.
And how about this dieta?
This dieta is a different a different kettle of fish altogether, really. Again, the preparation was necessary, but for me, now it was no longer necessary for me to adjust my diet particularly. Obviously, sex life was needed to be sacrificed, which is a shame. But from a dietary point of view, I only had to cut out a few bits here and there. It really wasn't that much of a difficult thing for me. And then coming here, the actual intake of food whilst you're here is quite bland. There's no salt, there's no sugar. It's mainly vegetables and fruit, and a lot of water. And in reality, I've seen how hard that is for a lot of people that have come here that's done it for the first time. I brought my fiancée with me. And as a result of the ayahuasca, just as a side thing, we had been going through a fairly rocky patch, and we were separated whilst I was doing the ayahuasca retreat in Holland. And as a result of finishing the ayahuasca retreat and having my eyes open, my brain open, my third eye open, literally, as soon as the retreat finished, I called her and said, come, let's just go and rent a ski chalet and let's just spend some time together. And we did that, and we reconnected on a level that I hadn't actually experienced with anyone ever. And subsequently, a couple of weeks later, in fact, a couple of weeks ago, we got engaged in Barbados, where we live. And I can safely put that down to ayahuasca, and that's profound in itself. And I've never been so in love, and I'm looking forward to spending the rest of my life with her. And she's, as a result of what I did on my working on myself, which is how we express it, she's come out to this Dieta in Peru for the first time, and she's done 4 ceremonies now, and she's profoundly changed as a result of it as well. And I can't say anything negative about the effect of ayahuasca. All I can say is that you know, I'm now able to accept love and to give love in the right way, and she is now able to accept love and give love in the right way, and because we have found a whole sense of self-love that you know, just wasn't existing and had been knocked out of us in this sort of, you know, cruel, hard world that you grow up in. And it's basically just cleaned the slate. And as a result, my life is, you know, my forward track of the rest of my life now is something that I'm looking forward to with immense excitement and joy because of this whole process and experience. And it's not for everybody. The reality is, you know, there are conditions in the human psyche and the human health condition that don't lend itself particularly well to ayahuasca. You know, significant depression, psychosis, heart condition, chronic depression, particularly for taking antidepressant tablets. There are a lot of things that don't necessarily mesh particularly well with ayahuasca, and you've got to want to do the work. You've got to want to improve yourself, and you've got to want to be a better human being, because that is what it's for. It's a waking up process. Everybody hopefully will try it eventually, but the reality is there's a lot of the world that are very much stuck in their own fixed ideas, and they really don't want to hear how happy someone else is, or you know, how wonderful an experience would be if it involves changing in any way, or involves, you know, sort of knocking a few holes in their, you know, usually overinflated egos, which is what basically gets ripped to shreds whilst you're here. So no, it's not for everybody. I wouldn't recommend it probably for under 21s. It's hard to consolidate this information. Just Stefan. It's hard for young people to consolidate this information, but at the same time, you know, there are people here on this retreat that are 22 and 23, and there was a couple of guys that were on the first retreat with me that were 22 and 23, and they hadn't built up the whole sort of extent of problems that you deal with in your life. You know, the bad things that you've done, the cruelty that you've done, not necessarily always, you know, with intention, but you know, nonetheless, you've gone through life with a fairly selfish attitude and the world serving me attitude. So for those guys that had just come to that sort of age, they hadn't built up the same bank of shit that basically someone like myself coming to deal with it at 49 had built up. So yeah, I wouldn't recommend it to people that are sort of fairly young and immature, but at the same time, the earlier they can get it, that they can do it, the better. Just hang on a second.
Sure.
Stefan? Sorry.
Tell me, do you think that it's important to came here to Peru and have the experience here in Peru?
It's a good question.
It's quite different
Yeah,
from Holland?
yeah, it's a very good question. The reality is, Peru is effectively the heartland of ayahuasca, and it's the home of shamanism. So when Gino was traveling with his team throughout Holland and the rest of Europe on a wake-up tour, trying to wake up people to stop them sort of sleeping into this miserable life that most people seem to lead. It was primarily on a 3-day retreat, in 3 ceremonies, leave on the following day, and then they would move on to the next group. That's a very intensive program. And ayahuasca, for me, certainly, because I was, I really did get a very large effect, even on my first journey, which not everybody does. Sometimes it takes a while to build up. So for me, I would say that, that 3-day intensive ceremony thing was something that would really be hard for a lot of people to go through. And certainly the reacclimatization process of having experienced this, profoundly changed, and then walking back into general society just as if nothing had happened is borderline impossible. And for me, I didn't know that, so I hadn't planned, a week afterwards of, complete, sort of solitude or, quiet time. And I really felt the effects of that, and had a very busy time the following week, and it was all a bit too much. So coming here to Peru, it's more have a ceremony, day off, have a ceremony, day off, have a ceremony, day off. And whilst you're here, you have a much longer time to integrate the teachings or the experiences that you've had or the lessons. And I think that matters. I think being here in Peru, certainly Gino and I'm sure many of the other shamans that operate from Peru have more time to, relax in their own native environment. And they feel more comfortable, they're home and their families are close by. They know the area, they know the lay of the land, they know the food, they feel a lot more centered. And certainly it seems a lot more powerful here. We've made the medicine on site. We've all contributed to making the medicine on site. And, it did taste different. It has been definitely more effective here through the means of not having to travel or to have been stored or to have been transported with care, because ayahuasca is still considered a class 1 drug by a lot of people because it contains DMT, even though from our point of view it contains medicine. And even for churches like Santa Dame or the UDV Church, it's a sacrament that they use as part of their religious process. So, for the government, as we call them now, to make this process illegal, for all of us that are involved in this, and I'm a very real world guy. I've been an entrepreneur for many years. I've made a lot of money. I've run very large businesses, and I'm a very practical, logical thinking guy that's not sort of delusional or daydreamy or beardy weirdy. Well, I've got a beard. And for me, this is for anybody that tries this, there's no discussion about what it is or what it does. This is not a drug, this is a medicine. Should not be illegal, it should be legal. Everybody should try this that's got the desire to want to try it in the countries where they want to try it in, rather than having to come to Peru, which is one of the very few places in the world where it's illegal, because it's literally Peru, Ecuador and Colombia where it's illegal. And then Brazil has arrangements for Santa Dame and UDV and various other churches. But it is necessary to come here to feel like you could do this legally, and you can do it in a relaxed environment, and to come here with such a wonderful group of people that have come here from all walks of life, all different countries, all different ages, all with different problems, all looking to work on different aspects of themselves. Some people have had abuse, some people have been abusive, some people have been drug users, some people have been depressed, some people have had health conditions, some people are just looking to wake up, some people are just looking to fix themselves. And seeing the whole mix of the people that are here and the effects that it's had on them, literally since we arrived, and I've gotten to know them in the past week, to see them now and to see them, healthier, happier, more optimistic for the future, cleaned out, brighter-eyed, and, profoundly affected by the changes in exactly the way I have been. So yeah, I think Peru is a good place to come for this. But I think it's something that, a lot of people can't afford to come to Peru. A lot of people can't take the time out of their, busy lives to come to Peru. But, the whole process of traveling and doing a wake-up tour and, doing it, albeit in a subversive manner because it's illegal, so having to do it, under the radar in other countries is actually, a very good idea to get people aware of it, to get people talking about it, to get the awareness level up, and then from that smaller ceremony process to come to Peru to go a lot deeper, to get really more involved in it, and to get a much better appreciation for the work of someone like Don Gino Chaka-Runa, who really is phenomenal. I mean, yeah, really phenomenal. Yeah.
For the last question is more personal, but well, I experienced the first night, but I don't really get in. No?
Yes.
So how is this experience? How is when you really get in?
When you go deep.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well, but I think that the music helps a lot.
enormously,
Yes.
enormously. It's it's rather difficult to explain. If we could explain it in the exact way that we experienced it, or I could put your camera inside my head so that you could experience it and you could show it to other people, you would have a queue 6 miles long to come here. For me, going deep, effectively, normally there's like you start to see sort of slight visions. It's a hallucinogenic to a degree. So basically, if you're looking in your normal day sight and you open your eyes, most things in terms of everything that moves, there's a coloration around it, which is red, green, blue, and yellow, all tinged around it. But the idea is not to be doing that. You go inside, so you close your eyes, and everything is done internally. The vision is effectively you start to begin to journey. And for me, it's a really simple expression, and I've said it to a few people that I've talked to try and explain it in the right way. It's like closing your human eyes and opening the eyes of your soul and starting to see the world through a totally different dimensional aspect. As I explained to you, Mother Ayahuasca is this spirit entity or deity that effectively is manipulating and showing you what you need to see in the gentlest way that she possibly can. I mean, if you've got some really tough shit to go through, it's still going to be tough, but she'll do it in the gentlest way that she possibly can to show you yourself from a different perspective so that you can see where you're going wrong and you can eradicate that part of yourself. And those visions for me have varied from literally sort of being on the spirit realm with, sort of angelic bodies, literally with wings, with going to places whereby, I've traveled to places and I've met literally figures that I've only seen in books. I've seen figures that look like Hindu gods, men in blue, like Avatar with, gold hats. I mean, it sounds ridiculous when you even talking about it and putting it on camera and on the record, it sounds as if I've just been taking some loopy drugs. And I've been seeing stuff that these drugs have basically kicked off a reaction in my brain to make me see things. It is nothing like that at all. It is a full immersion. It's almost like a VR immersion video game, except what's happening in it has a direct relation to what's happening to you, and it isn't happening from someone's construct of a computer game or someone's simulation or my brain making up some shit that, it's dreamt up on a dream before now, or from a book I've read, or from what spiritualist, research that I've done. It is a very real and repeating phenomena. So it's not like I've been there, I had this wonderful vision, and then I would go, and I had a wonderful vision over here. For me, it's been a repeated process of going back to quite a few regular places that I know are real. I know they're real, and I know the effects and the feelings that I get when I'm there and what I'm experiencing. And that's not difficult to convey. That is difficult to convey to people, because in reality they're just going to look at it and say, oh well, what a load of bullshit. But take it from me, I'm a really trustworthy guy. I mean, I don't lie either. So the reality is, I know what I've experienced. I've been deep. It's profound. Not everybody does. We've got a couple of guys here that they simply just don't journey. They don't vision. They don't get this out-of-body experience. They don't see anything like the stuff that I've seen. A few people have said to me, God, you're so lucky. But I mean, even my fiance, she's had exactly the same thing, exactly the same type of experiences. It's gone very deep. She's had to work through a lot of childhood trauma, a lot of family trauma, a lot of parental issues. And that's been hard for her. She's really, we say, you're doing your work, or you've done your work. And she really has done her work. I mean, she's pretty exhausted after this week, but my goodness me, she's clean. She's cleaned right out. And she's gone really deep. And I'm glad that she was able to do that rather than just have a physical experience, because some people just get like an energetic experience where they experience and feel changes within themselves. But I would say the majority experience a very deep immersion, particularly as you start to do ceremonies that build up day after day. So the first ceremony, you might take the ayahuasca, and you might take a reduced amount, and your visions might be less, and they might not last for as long. An average session would last for 4 hours. But then as you go on to the next ayahuasca ceremony, which is a day or two later, the reality is the ayahuasca is still in your system. The DMT that it produces is still in your system. And basically that starts to build up progressively so that by the time you're onto your second ceremony, there's more. By the time you're onto your third ceremony, it's even deeper. Even though from the first ceremony, it's felt so deep that even as my fiance said to me after the first ceremony, my God, what else is there to see? What else could I possibly learn? I've been shown so much in so much detail and so much energy towards it that there can't possibly be anything more to learn. Second ceremony, oh my God, that was even more profound. Third ceremony, oh my God, this just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And there was the same for me. So yeah, going deep is something that really, for a lot of people, is a process of development as they go for a longer period, which is why it's important to come to somewhere like Peru, which is why it's important to have the time to have a ceremony, have an acclimatization day and just rest, because it really does take it out of you. You know, you can start off with a 4-hour ceremony, but by the time you've actually got to the end of your Dieta here, you know, the last 2 ceremonies, certainly for me, I've been journeying for between 7 to 9 hours. Just hold that for a second. Guys, Luna, can you guys keep quiet? We're trying to do some filming.
And just for, well, a last recommendation, there's a lot of people who have fear, no? They fear this experience.
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. I mean, the reality is the fear level will increase proportionately with how much shit you've got and how little you actually want to face yourself and to go inside and do your own work. The reality is a lot of people don't like themselves. So if you're not very fond of yourself and you want to actually break through the barrier of actually starting to get to a point whereby you actually really do like who you are, love who you are, and you can start to grow your self-worth and your self-esteem and your self-respect, that's going to take some work. And the more of a dick you are, the harder it's going to be. And the more cruel you are, the more selfish you are, the more self-centered you are, the more callous you are. The reality is most people know that about themselves, but they can actually avoid looking at any aspect of that in their day-to-day life by just working really hard, trying to get more money or trying to get more power or trying to get more affection. And the reality is that has nothing to do with ayahuasca. In fact, ayahuasca is the antithesis of that, and it will just wipe out all of your previous expectations. The reality is most people that have done ayahuasca, and they've done it for a few times and really gone very deep into the process, they come out with a completely different view of the world. They're not that worried about money. They're not that worried about what people think about them, to be honest. All they're worried about is how they feel about themselves in their own little circle of one. They don't need to go and join somebody else's gang. They don't feel outside of everybody else's circle because they don't need to join anybody else's circle. They're complete. They're whole. They've cured most of their conditions that they've got into, and they feel a profound sense of self-worth, and it allows them to be a much better human being. And they start off on a different path trying to be the best version of themselves that they can be going forward, which leads you on to just progressively try to improve the way that you lead your life, how you treat people, how you interact with the world. And it has nothing to do with, I've got a flashy car, or I've got the biggest house, or I'm going on the best holidays, or I've got the best clothes and they're all designer label. The reality is once you actually start to ground yourself with ayahuasca and understand what the real, true beauty in life is all about, you realize those things are actually pretty irrelevant. And as long as you've got what you need, you can enjoy your life in a fairly much more simplistic manner without having to chase, the heavy heights of fame and fortune. You can actually appreciate every day, every moment, and every person that you meet without any effort or any cost.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
That's a whole movie, eh?
Sorry.